Hello, Kimberly. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Busy, but good.
That's good.
Well, thank you so much for being willing to be interviewed and joining us to answer questions about lymphedema.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really honored that you asked me.
March is Lymphedema Awareness Month. Could you share a little bit about your diagnosis?
It actually was kind of a long process. Um, I woke up one morning and my leg was swollen. So that's odd, but I've been doing some workout, so I thought I've pulled something, I've done something weird. We thought it was like a pulled muscle, then we were like, oh, it's a blood clot. That's what it is. We did so many ultrasounds, no blood clot. We did x-rays of my leg, everything was fine. We started physical therapy, and then this nice little knot formed on my leg. So that started a whole new process, and we had multiple tests done, I think, and it all started this time last March during pandemic. My body decided to explode. It's like, really? So I was going to the hospital like every week, once a week for like 4 months. It was crazy. I went to my doctor. I did research. I do research all the time on stuff. And I was like, could it be a lymph node problem? He goes, I never thought about that. So, because with congenital, you think, oh, it's fluid from the heart, you're swelling in a leg, okay. And that's actually kind of how we got on track for lymphedema, so.
Now, have I been pronouncing it wrong? Is it lymphedema or is it lymphedema?
I've heard lymphedema, but it's probably fine. I wouldn't worry about it.
I'll switch my phrasing right now. Like, this is a totally new thing. Like, I knew yeah. Like, I knew it existed, but I was like, I didn't know how it connected to, or if it connects to CHD. And so I think it's really interesting that you went to your doctor and he was thinking fluid buildup, and you were like, well, what about lymphedema?
Yeah, and I mean, I thought it was fluid buildup as well, until I just came across it doing research, and I was like, oh, well, those symptoms make sense. So it just kind of, that's just kind of how it happened. It's crazy because not a lot of CHD people have it.
That was going to be my next question. Does it often go hand in hand with CHD?
Right. It doesn't. Usually your lymph nodes are like an immune system thing, that it moves that fluid out, helps to build up your immune system. And a lot of people who have lymphedema have cancer, who have had lymph nodes removed from their armpit, so they have it in their arms, or from where mine is, from the groin area, and they have it in one or both legs. And so the only thing we can figure, because my doctor's like, I really don't understand why you have this, or why it blew up all of a sudden. Like, there was no like damage done, there wasn't an injury which can cause it, and nothing was removed. So the only thing we think is it's from my heart calves, because for me, they go in through that groin area, and something must have gotten damaged somehow. I have no idea. But just the fact that it blew up that fast, like all of a sudden, it was so odd.
Wow, okay, so in your research, you noticed that patients with CHD were not necessarily more prone to having lymphedema. And then you did research and you were like, well, maybe it could be this. You bring it up to your doctor, and doctor's like, oh, actually, yeah, probably. They run some tests.
Yeah.
How long did it take until the doctor was like, yeah, it definitely is this?
I think it took, I'm trying to think, I guess it was until probably June, maybe, that he was like, okay, maybe this is what it is. He talked to another doctor. One of my lymphedema doctors that I see now is also studies in cardiology, which is like fantastic, because then I don't have to, trying to break all that down. And, but they did a test where, and I don't remember the name of it, it was some weird name, but basically they gave me shots in between my big toes, super fun. It was very painful. But they basically put like this radiation stuff in to see how it moved through the lymph nodes, through those channels. And he said, yeah, your right leg moves a little slower than the left leg, but nothing concerning. So, I don't know. It's almost like something is like clogged or damaged. And so now it's just treating the symptoms in hopes that things will get better. So.
Yeah. So, to give people an approximation, how many catheterizations have you gone through?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. maybe 10. Yeah, probably about 10.
Okay. So. And do you mind sharing your age?
My first 4 were before, well, I was supposed to have 5. One before each surgery. But one of them was emergency surgery, so we skipped that one. So, I mean, little, like before 5, I had 4. And then one was for like heart transplant evaluation. They did one, and one was when I was put on oxygen the first time, and you know, just like random things, or like checking this, that, and the other. And so, I mean, I never thought about it. That's just what they did. I never knew that there could be an issue from a lymph node thing from that. So, yeah.
And then we totally jumped into the interview, and I like didn't even, I was like, oh, I forgot to ask you this. Would you mind sharing what your CHD is?
I have Tricuspid Atresia, and which basically means you're missing, is it the right pump?
Right. Yeah, it's the right, it's the tricuspid valve, and then the ventricle doesn't usually form.
Right. I always get them, I'm like, is this side or that side? Yeah. But yeah, the tricuspid valve didn't form. And I believe you have that as well, correct?
I do, yeah.
We understand. Which is awesome.
So it's just tricuspid atresia?
Just tricuspid atresia. I don't have any fun other elements with that. So I know some people do.
Yeah. And so I'm just going to point out the obvious difference between us. I'm not on oxygen and you are. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was put on oxygen, oh my gosh, it'll be 6 years in November, which is crazy. I think it's 6 years. But it basically, I had been on it before for like 6 months. I would get this weird cough, and my oxygen level would drop, be put on oxygen, and get off of it a month or 2 later. Never thought anything about it. And then 6 years ago, it just dropped. Like my oxygen level just plummeted out of nowhere. I knew it, like I know the symptoms, and if you've ever had it happen, you know the symptoms. I didn't think it was like weird to be put on oxygen until I showed up at my job the next day on oxygen, and everybody was like, are you okay? What's wrong? And I'm like, wait, I'm fine. What's wrong with you? What? Oh yeah, that is, okay, I get it now. So, but it's, I say it's like pulmonary hypertension. We don't know why I'm on oxygen either. That's just how my body is. The only thing we think is like the pressures in the heart are higher than the pressures in the lungs. So the deoxygenated blood is bypassing my lungs and going straight to my heart, therefore making my oxygen level drop. So it's just weird, but you know, I'm not on a lot of it, and like sitting, I can take it off, it's fine, you know, for long periods. So you just make it work. That's all you can do. Just make it work. So
definitely awesome. Well, thank you for sharing about that.
And I mean, you know, I even named my oxygen machine because that's what you do. So, which inspired everything else. So
since it's a natural segue, would you mind sharing your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so my oxygen machine is Zanna, and my friends and I named it on a trip. It comes from episode of Supernatural, which is my favorite show. And Zanna is somebody who helps kids. It's an imaginary friend who helps kids. And Zanna helps me, so it was the perfect name. I jokingly was like, I'm gonna start an Instagram. And they were like, yeah, do it. So I did. Imagine with Zanna. And then I was like, you know what? I love doing film, and I never get to film stuff, so I'm just gonna film my life because I see other people do it with chronic illness, and why not? So it just kind of jumped to that, adventures with Zanna. So yeah, it's really fun too because I get to kind of share my journey while also being a complete medical nerd and learn about other people's chronic illness journey. So it's a lot of fun.
That sounds very similar to me. I'm like, ooh, I want to learn about everything.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And then your doctor's like, oh, did you already get tested for that? I'm like, no, I just know it from so-and-so. And they're like, oh, okay.
You like go to your doctor and you're like, I think it's lymphedema. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay. Let's look into that.
That's basically, they've learned to listen to me now, so.
That's the other thing. When you have a chronic illness, talking to your doctor in a way that lets them know that you are aware and you want to know about it.
Yeah, and totally like advocating for yourself. Like I preach that all the time. I'm like, tell your doctor what blood test. Tell your doctor what you think it might be, because they're human too. Like they're gonna make mistakes. They're going to miss something, and you know your body better than anyone else. So you know, they live with it for 20 minutes while you're in the doctor's office, but you live with it 24/7. So.
Do you feel like your platform, Imagine with Zanna, and then also Adventures with Zanna, do you feel that both of those have helped people in the medical community?
I feel like they have, at least either someone saying like, hey, like I understand that, or thank you for sharing that because I didn't think anyone else felt this way. Or, you know, like, oh my gosh, I do that too. Like I have that weird symptom too. And also just someone saying like, hey, like I'm having a really hard time dealing with being on oxygen, and seeing that you are doing so well, but also happy, like that also inspires me that it's going to be okay one day. Which honestly, when I follow other people with lymphedema, it's been a process to get to being okay, and I'm still getting there, but it's nice to see other people like doing well and happy and okay with themselves. That helps me personally to be like, okay, there is a good place to get. I can get there. So
I guess I phrased the question kind of weirdly because of course both of your social media accounts are helping people. So you mentioned that, you know, seeing other people's journeys has helped you, and so you kind of put yourself out there in the social media world to help others. Are there any times when you think, I should film this, but it's not necessarily one of my good days?
Yeah.
How do you do that, or do you choose not to? How do you go about that?
No, there is a video, and I can't remember the name of it. It's like later on, in some of my earlier ones, that I was having a really bad night. I had dealt with insurance and trying to get this, that, and the other figured out, and I just picked up the camera. I was like, I'm just gonna cry on camera, and I'm just gonna leave it out there. And their response was really good. They were like, thank you for this. I try to be vulnerable. I know there are other videos I have been vulnerable in, but sometimes it is hard because either you don't know how people are gonna react, but also you don't want to seem like I'm trying to get attention, or oh my gosh, she's so dramatic, you know. So I do try to be careful with that, but also on the other hand, trying to be vulnerable as well, as much as I can, and feel comfortable sharing, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it does. You're trying to create a balance, and when you're dealing with something so personal and medical and life, you know, connected to your life in such a major way, it can be difficult on those days when you're like, oh, do I really want to film myself right now?
Yes, it's so true. It's so true.
I think you mentioned this, but do you have any additions to the symptoms that you noticed early on before the lymphedema was diagnosed?
No, not that I'm aware. I mean, besides the random leg swelling and then the knot popping up, no, I didn't have, like, I had no clue. I mean, there wasn't any warning whatsoever. It was just like I woke up my leg was different, and it never went back to normal. And I think that's been the hardest part.
The not going back to normal. Do you feel like you've grieved because of it?
Oh, yeah.
For your leg?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were some nights I would lay in bed and just look at pictures before everything happened and just like sob, like gut-wrenching sob. You know, go in the bathroom at 2 a.m. because I'm trying to figure out this new compression thing and that I have to wear at night. And I would just look at my leg and just sob. I mean, like, why is this happening? This is not okay. And I think it's still not okay. One's leg should be totally not normal. But it's just like getting to the point where you've done the steps of grieving, and I still feel like I'm in a place where I am still processing, and it's been a year, which I think is the longest I've ever had a hard time. Like, this is the longest I've ever processed something. Normally I'm like, okay, all right, we're on oxygen, what we're doing, okay, cool, we're gonna roll with it, whatever. You know, any issue I have, we just roll with it. But I think this one is just, I don't know what is so different about it, but it has just been difficult. But yes, grieving, the denial, the gut-wrenching tears, the anger, yeah, it's been a whole thing.
Do you mind if I throw out a possible reason as to why this might be more challenging, and then hear your thoughts about what you think about it?
Yeah, go for it.
Do you believe that lymphedema is more difficult to accept because it completely alters the way you live your life, and it's it's never going to be fixed, such as you're on oxygen and you put it on and you're like, okay, I feel better. It's like an immediate helpful tool that you have. Mm-hmm. Whereas with lymphedema, it's more of managing it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it definitely could be that. I think also it's like, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this correctly. I guess with like the oxygen, it's different. I get weird questions all the time, but I don't think about it. You know, like, I don't think about my scars either. Like, people ask me about them and I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm sure you have that as well. You know, if they've been there so long. But I think also this is it's so physical. Like, it's to me, it is completely visible. I have toothpick legs, as we call them. I have toothpick and I have tree trunk now. And so it's just like, this is not, I don't like this. I'm not used to this. And it's a lot of work. Lymphedema is not, oh, I threw on my compression stocking and that's that. I work out at least 30 minutes to an hour a day because exercising is so great for it to move that lymphatic fluid. And I go to therapy once or twice a week. I pump my leg with like this whole big machine thing, and that goes from my toe all the way up to like my belly button for an hour and a half a day. And that was like last night. I got home at 10 o'clock and then I had to do all of this stuff, you know, all of this pumping and everything. And then it's wearing compression at night. Like, it's a non-stop game, basically. And I went to my cardiologist the other day and he was like, your leg looks great. Because, I mean, he's seen it when it was like super bad. And I was like, yeah. And it was just that moment of, I get that you were trying to be positive, but part of me is like, instead of saying, oh, it's great, be like, your leg looks great. You're working hard for it. Because you see me for 20 minutes, you don't wake up with this every day and go to bed with it every day and fight with it every day. And there's no medication I can take. I can't just pop a pill and be like, okay, I did that part. And there's nothing. There's no medication, there's no treatment. We're basically, as I call, treating the symptoms at this point. And I know there is more research being done. I don't know about medications because I've seen stuff, but like, I don't know to say like, oh yeah, this is in trial. I'm hoping one day they will find a medication or something that will help. I mean, in my research, there's like millions of people who live with this. It's not just 1,000. It's not a rare thing. So I'm like, why is there not more research done? And I just think people don't think about it. You know, they don't think about it. So
yeah, so in the description of this video, I'll put some links to organizations and national resources for those with lymphedema.
If you need me to send you any that I've found, I can.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, coming from somebody who's experienced will probably be a better resource than what I could come up with. So yeah.
You know, you never know what you might find. I mean, I did this all with like no idea what I was doing. So
well, that's how it all starts, right? Like we all get dropped into these weird situations. We're like, oh crap, how are we gonna deal with this now?
Basically.
Help me. Yeah. And so the major thing that I noticed was the word that you used was manage this condition. And so would you be able to describe in a little bit more detail what a typical daily routine is for managing lymphedema?
So actually, like this morning, my mom wrapped my leg last night in like cotton and bandages and everything. And so I spent 10 minutes unwrapping my leg. And then I kind of midway through my routine of showering and getting ready, I put on my compression stocking to go ahead and have that on. Because with lymphedema, the fluid will start moving and then it feels really heavy. Your leg just feels heavy. And so I just go ahead and put that on. At night, I put on like Velcro wraps unless I wrap it. And those seem to work pretty well. Sometime mid-evening, that's when I start pumping and I hook everything up. It's like a big monitor with all these tubes, and you stick it on your leg, you stick on the shorts, and you just go and you just lay there and let it do its job and deep breathe and everything.
What is it pumping? Is it pumping like air to the outside of your leg, or?
It's like little chambers. And they fill up, it looks like a caterpillar moving. It's really kind of cool, honestly. And that, like, just, like, thigh to toe is basically an hour. And then sometimes I'll add in, you know, the trunk piece or whatever I feel like I need to move. Because your massive lymphedema, like, vessel or the major part of it is, like, right behind your belly button. Whatever it's called, I don't know what it's called. But like I know that the main channels all meet up to like right behind your belly button, and that's why you deep breathe so much, and like squeeze your butt and all of this stuff, and do exercising with your core or jumping on the trampoline or swimming. And I do all that too. You know, I'm jumping the trampoline for 15-30 minutes a day. I do some sort of core exercising for 20 minutes a day, you know, just to get things moving, walking, any type of exercise. So I do that during the day, and then I pump at night, like an hour and a half a day, read a lot of books, drink some hot chocolate, make the most of it. And at night I put the Velcro on or I wrap it, whichever one we feel like I need to do. So it is a lot of managing for sure.
Do you feel that that's where the mental / a little bit of the physical exhaustion comes from with this condition, is just the managing of it?
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot to process, just physically and then yes, mentally as well.
Do you have any, I know you mentioned the books and a couple of other things, do you have any tips for anyone who is trying to manage this and kind of cope with it? What other tips would you recommend that you've noticed?
I think about this all day, trying to figure out like what I would tell somebody. I think for me, taking it one step at a time, figuring out, okay, this works for me. It may not work for anybody else, that's fine, it works for you. I even bought like this glue, it's called It Sticks, it's like on the lymphedema websites, to hold your compression stockings up. Because going to the bathroom 15 times at work to pull them up is not okay. And it's just not okay. And that stuff is great. So, you know, but really it's taking it a step at a time. Okay, let's just do the compression. Let's do a little bit of exercise. Let's throw our feet up on the wall if you can exercise. You know, elevate them. But I think it's just finding something that works for you but also trying to find a little bit of joy or a little bit of feeling like reading books while pumping. Okay, I am doing something productive. I am doing something productive while I'm doing this. And that makes me feel better during that hour and a half.
And it's not only something productive, it's something that you enjoy.
Right, yes. And you know, I mean, sometimes I need to change the scenery, and I'll go downstairs on the couch. My mom and I will watch The Voice because it's funny and it's good, and it's something different. It's just a mental change of mind. So I don't know if that's helpful.
I think it is. Whatever answer you would have given would be helpful because you've gone through it and this is what you've experienced. And like you said, someone else who's gone through lymphedema might have a completely different answer than what you did, but because it works for them.
True. Okay.
Yeah, I think I've already asked this question, but did you know about lymphedema before you were diagnosed?
I did not know anything. I took anatomy classes in college, and then during pandemic I was bored, so I took more online, and I learned, you know, this is your lymphatic system and this is what it does and these are your lymph nodes, and I was like, okay, cool, all right, and moving on. And then when I was diagnosed, I was like, oh, I should have paid more attention. So yeah, I didn't even know that was like an issue. Like, I didn't even know that could happen to your body. No, yeah, I knew nothing.
Yeah, okay. And so then jumping off of, we were talking about, wow, my brain. We were talking about managing the condition, and you mentioned a lot of exercise. And so I know from my anatomy classes as well that the lymphedema, or the lymph system, is connected directly to the muscles. And so it's kind of like, I like to think of them as like water veins. I don't know if that's a good description, but instead of blood, it's like lymph.
Right, it's lymph fluid, yeah, lymphatic fluid, yeah.
Right, and then you have like these little, like almost doors in your lymph.
Like the channels, yeah.
Yeah, the channels, vessels, sure, we'll go with that. And there's like little doors, and the things that what opens the doors is the movement of muscle. So that's why you are moving so much, is so that the fluid that's kind of built up and gone down with gravity, you're moving it so that it kind of goes back up and down. And
right, yeah, and they say like getting your heart pumping a lot is really good. I don't know this for sure. I want to say it goes like through the heart or something, like it kind of moves through that and then it goes out through your kidneys into your, you know, your urine. But yeah, like because it's behind your knee, so jumping or pumping that leg and right in your groin, so all of that is just really good to get it moving. And that's also why deep breathing, because your major channel is right there. And swimming is great. Swimming is like basically a lymphatic massage, which is pumping. So, you know, when you go swimming, just be prepared if you have lymphedema to go to the bathroom a lot. Which is great. It's just like, oh, I gotta get out of the pool again.
Interesting. Yeah. I totally wouldn't have connected that since you said that.
I wouldn't have either until all of this. So, you know, I usually just am like, okay, I want to learn about the GI and the heart. That's, you know, that's my go-to.
Now, would you mind sharing a little bit about your GI issues? You are gluten intolerant, right?
Yes. So I have celiac disease, which means you're allergic or have like an intolerance to gluten, wheat, rye, barley, oats, you know, oats if they're contaminated. So I was diagnosed with that. That took 4 years to be diagnosed, which apparently is typical for celiac. I'm like, why? Because it's basically damaging your intestines. You're not absorbing anything. But I was diagnosed at 16, I believe. And then we dealt with that. We finally got me better because, you know, throwing up and having diarrhea while you're in school, not so cool. I had like a year or two of like, okay, we're doing good. And my senior year of high school, I got sick again. I was having diarrhea, I was throwing up, my stomach was distended again, but I was also swelling, having fluid like all in my body. Like I would wake up, my eyes would be almost swollen shut because there was just so much fluid. And we had no idea what was going on. They were like, oh, it's the celiac. Mom's like, no, she's really good about her diet. And come to find out, we had gone like out of the country on a trip. And we come back and they're like, we think you have protein losing enteropathy. And I was like, holiday hoobie whatty? And so they were like, protein losing enteropathy. And it's caused from the Fontan. I know I've heard that other people have had it, they don't have a heart condition, but most people who do have the Fontan surgery, and for some reason it just happens. And it can happen a month after surgery or, 18 years like me. And so my protein level, or you can get protein albumin, I go with albumin, but my albumin level was like 0.8. And normal is 3.5 to 5.0. They were like, you're at the point where your organs could just start shutting down. So we need to fix this. I was like, oh, cool. Okay, great. Just graduated high school and now dealing with this. And there is like the longest story ever behind that. But basically the GI I had at the time was not even like a full doctor. She was a fellow, which is the step before. And I basically am like, you basically saved my life, because my cardiologist at the time was like, this isn't my problem, it's a GI problem. And she's like, no, it's a both the problem. it's everything. And so she started me on like Tricuspid, which I gave myself an injection 3 times a day, on like Peptamen, which is like a feeding tube stuff to help. But I didn't have a feeding tube, I just drank it orally. It's the nastiest stuff ever. We finally ended up at Mayo Clinic, which is where we go every year, once a year. And they put me on a medication that got me back up. I mean, it would still just do this, but it was steady for the most part. And, well, I guess it's 3 years ago now, I went through heart transplant evaluations because my protein level was low again. And they said, for kicks, we've heard this medication works, it's called Midodrine. And you take it with spironolactone and just see if it works. And I have been like holding steady pretty much for like 3 years, which is mind-blowing. Like my alpha-1 trypsin or something, it's a poop test, came back normal. He was like, there's not even like protein losing enteropathy in your stool anymore. Like, that's amazing. But I was told when I went to Mayo the first time, he was like, I don't think you have celiac. I think it's been PLE. And so he actually did a celiac test to be sure. And he goes, I have to tell you this. And I was like, what? He goes, you are the only person that I know of in the US and Canada that have both. No one has both. I was like, oh my gosh. I am just a rarity at life. I think that was also the day he was like, I have my patients and then I have you.
So, do you mind asking, what are you on now?
I am on Midodrine and spironolactone. And I take those, there's a system to them, but it's like you take spironolactone morning and the night, and then Midodrine you take 3 times a day before a meal. And that has been holding me steady, and just like, it's been holding me steady in a way that none of my other medications did. So it's been such a blessing.
Truly.
That's awesome. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. I'm glad that you were able to find that, and
yes.
It's been helping.
And I think, like, through that, like, I was like, okay, we're doing great. And then all this happened. But I think it's also possibly a reason lymphedema, I've had a hard time processing, because I went through years of being swollen, and that kind of traumatizes your brain of, oh my gosh, I'm big. And now, like, you have this leg that's swollen too. And it's like trying to get past years of trauma to be like, okay, this is okay though. So it's, yeah.
Well, awesome. I'm glad that you're kind of, getting to a point where you can be like, okay, I'm acknowledging that things are where they are. I'm still maybe not ready to accept it 100%, but like, you've come a long way in a year.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of proud of myself in a way, just of like, okay, you're getting there.
Yeah, for everyone it's a different timetable, and you never want to, especially in a grieving process with your own body, you never want to say to yourself, or you never want to like rush it or compare yourself to others, because we're all unique and we all handle things differently.
Right. So true.
Is there anything that you would like to share with anyone who has CHD, lymphedema, celiac, anything that you are diagnosed with? Is there any messages that you would like to share with the public?
I think for anyone with a chronic illness, like a main thing is like, don't give up. Like, I know I have days where I'm just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to deal with the doctors. I don't want to deal with medical things. But it's like taking it one step at a time. And also to remind yourself, like, you're not a failure. Like, you did not fail your body. Your body is its own organism, and it does whatever it wants. And unfortunately, you know, no matter how hard we try, things are not always going to go to plan. You know, the medication won't work all of a sudden, or, you know, what worked for 5 months may not work anymore. And it's so frustrating. And I think just telling myself, you are not a failure, you are doing the best you can. And just, yeah. And I also will say to some people, like, if you have to, take it a minute at a time, take it an hour at a time, take it a breath at a time. Like, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And if you have to fake it till you make it, do it. And also advocate for yourself. Like, you know your body so well, and if you feel like this doctor's not doing anything, go see someone else. It's okay. No one will judge you, I promise you. So, you know, yeah, I think that would be my main advice for anybody with a chronic illness.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on all of the points that you made, and specifically, most heavily, the finding a doctor that works for you, because the doctor is always supposed to work for you and help you and not leave you saying, I need some more answers.
Yeah, you know, we're just like, oh, sorry, shrugging their shoulders. I'm like, that's not helpful. So, yeah.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for joining me and sharing your story with us.
Oh, it was so much fun. I'm so glad to do it, especially if it'll hopefully help others as well. So, and spread some awareness on all of these topics.
Yeah, and I think your message is gonna just help so many people.
Well, thank you for that. That means a lot.
Oh my gosh, one of your videos made me crack up. What was the one? It was it Halloween, or was it like a Christmas one? Your mom was talking to the kids with like the things on her ears.
Oh yes, that was the Christmas one. That's my daily life. Yep.
Oh my god, that cracked me up.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I was like, I'm either gonna put this. Somebody's gonna be like, oh.
Tell your mom I said thank you.
I will. I will definitely tell her. She will be glad to know someone else understands the crazy.
She made me feel less alone.
I was like, Mom, you're inspiring people through my YouTube channel.
I don't want this to be boring. I mean, visual should not be boring. Oh wait. But see, there we go. Look at that. Is that not amazing? I think this works well. Oh wait, I didn't turn my lights on.
You fire, this is what happens when you got them at Dollar Tree 2 years ago.
Oh, that's the little thing you do.
This is what I get.
Hey Kim, can you put me batteries in this?
That is one thing I will not put batteries in.